Jared Rosa here with T.J. Finley, Ponchatoula star, LSU signee, and incoming LSU freshman quarterback, guy that has been a part of that 2020 LSU class for quite a while now. You guys are all kind of finally getting together, and everybody's trying to get back closer to a sense of normalcy and start following up that great season that we watched in 2019. TJ, man, it's been a minute. Good to see you. Certainly appreciate your time. How you been doing?
Been good so far. Been staying healthy my way, keeping social distancing with everybody, trying to follow the rules and stuff like that. But other than that, just been grinding, using this time to get better personally, individually, stuff like that. So I've been doing good. Thank you for your call.
Yeah, man. I know think people have seen you've been able to stay active and kind of continue working on your craft throughout some of this. What has that looked like for you? Because certainly there have been a lot of limitations on what type of work you guys can get in compared to what it would have looked like without COVID. So what's kind of your routine look like? What have you been able to really get in?
I have a guy named James Washington. He's my quarterback coach, quarterback trainer right now. We work out every Tuesday in Mandeville, about an hour and a half session each time. We mainly work on footwork, being in uncomfortable situations in the pocket, still having to make the throws that you need to make in games that happen, especially in the SEC. As you can see, Joe Burrow had some times where he had a lot of pressure and had to make, some awkward looking throws, but had to still, make it accurate. And so we just mainly work on that, being in the best position to make the best throw. And then every other day, I run, with my girlfriend's family. They're heavy on basketball. Her brother is Marshall Graves, so he knows a lot about, footwork and foot speed and with basketball. So I usually run up and down the court with them and play basketball with them to get my cardio in.
Yeah, we're talking. I've known the Graveses for a minute, so shout out to them. Hope everything's going well on their end too. Glad to hear you getting a chance to kind of spend some time with them and work on some of the basketball and conditioning and stuff. And also, I don't know if you remember, probably about 3 years ago when I was trying to get a sense of what kind of your training routine was then and asking who you were throwing with and stuff. But that James is a friend of mine from way back that he was asking if I knew who you worked with at that point. So it's been kind of funny to see you guys link it up a little bit later on and you get in some work with him more recently.
Absolutely.
You mentioned getting a chance, I guess, to even throw with some of the older LSU guys who were kind of on their way out. Sometimes when you're up in Baton Rouge, you've had a chance to work with Jets and some of those guys who were NFL bound. What's that been like? What have been some of the things you've been able to pick up from some of the older guys?
It's helped me transfer from high school to college tremendously. The game speed, their speed, because my high school days, I was throwing to my junior year was my best year because I was throwing to two seniors, and they were pretty fast. They were good. We led the Metro, we led the state in passing yards and stuff like that. So from my junior year to my senior year, I threw with all sophomores. So they weren't really developed. They were, I had to make things happen for them. And it was my senior year was a lot of teaching instead of just playing the game of football. So coming into LSU as an early enrollee and getting to practice with them, as they faced Oklahoma and Clemson and stuff like that, I was able to get those reps in with Jefferson and Derek Dillon and players of that nature to, really test how, good of a quarterback I am, because they made me get the ball out faster because they were faster in their routes. They were quicker off the line of scrimmage, just better route runners and naturally because they've been doing it for so long. So, it really gave me a test to see where I was and what areas I needed to get better in. And I just took it upon myself to work on those areas to get where I'm at now.
That's really interesting because I thought about you a lot as we went through the NFL draft process and people talked about Jordan Love and kind of the year-to-year differences with him, and people looked at that senior year with him, or the past year, I guess, with him, and talking about how so many people had graduated from Utah State and he was working with a lot of younger guys and fresh faces. And so it was just a lot different look of what they could do overall offensively and what he was kind of forced to try to force the issue at times. And I thought about you with a lot of those younger guys that were coming up around you this past year.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, our young guys, they were exceptional sophomores, but as you can see, a senior that's 18-year-old is always better. Well, not always better, but is more physically ready, more mentally ready. Has a better mindset of the game going into the game and stuff like that than a premature 16-year-old.
And I want to kind of get back a little bit later on in the chat and talk some more about those younger guys and the legacy you leave behind at Ponchatoula. But looking at where you are, and you kind of burst onto the scene as a young guy, kind of early to mid high school, where offers were starting to fall into place. And now when you look at where you are as the older guy who's been through another couple years of football and training and really kind of focused in on what the future held at LSU and kind of preparing for that, as much attention and as many accolades as came your way at the beginning of some of this, how different do you feel now as a couple years older and having been through some of that? What do you think are some of the biggest differences from young TJ 2 and 3 years ago to where you are now actually getting started at the college level?
That's a very good question. I think about that often, and I ask myself, what have I grown, from, like you said, young TJ to now young adult TJ. And I think it's just that I'm more of a team player now. Younger, men are just naturally worried about themselves. I've learned that through my studies. I'm heavy in Christ and God, and I was just listening to a sermon that said men are naturally only worried about themselves at times. So the younger TJ was only worried about getting offers and was only worried about getting the accolades that he deserved. And as I grew from my sophomore to junior year, I learned that, like I said, my junior year, I led the state in passing. I had that 600-yard game versus Denham Springs. So I was pumped up, blah, blah, blah. Then came my senior year. I took a big step back because, of the sophomores that I had and playing with a whole team that was brand new to the system and stuff like that. So from my junior year to my senior year, I had to learn that it wasn't about me. It was about, like you said, the legacy I leave behind and what I taught the young players to persevere through the season. And my junior year, I threw, almost 3,000 yards and we went 2-8. My senior year, I threw maybe 2,300 yards, but we went 6-4 in the regular season, and then lost the first round to Destrehan. They made it to the state championship. So I just really had to learn that it's bigger than me. Football was bigger than me, and just pass that down to the younger kids that you're not going to get anywhere in life being selfish, being only worried about yourself. The only time it's okay to need other people help, need other people guidance and stuff like that. So that's the biggest thing that I had to learn and grow from in my younger age.
And it may have not been, I guess, a specific moment or conversation, but it may have been more of an overall part of that process. But do you remember kind of a moment when some of that clicked for you, or a conversation with a coach or teammate or dad or older player or whoever it may have been, where kind of the light bulb type moment went off for you, or about what time in that process that switch came for you?
I would say maybe not a specific time, but I can say that I realized that I had to be a different player the summer going into my senior year. We had summer training camp. We was waking up at 6 in the morning and not leaving the facilities till 12. Me and Coach Hank basically had to take the offense on our back because our offensive coordinator, took another job. So it was basically just me and Coach Hank all year. on the offensive side of the ball. So I had to grow up early. I was 16 years old, going to be 17, and I had to learn how to lead in different ways. I had to learn how to lead spiritually, mentally, physically, and show the young guys how it's really supposed to be done and stuff like that. So the summer going into my senior year, I had to realize that I wasn't playing with the players that I played with my senior year, and the stuff that they knew, these young guys didn't know. So I had to teach them and stuff like that. So that's probably when it clicked for me, especially when Coach Hank pulled me to the side and was like, look, this is your offense. Me and you, we got to work with this, and we got to, just get as far as we can get, and hopefully, great players make great plays.
How excited are you to be at this point now to where you're actually beginning your LSU career? You were a guy that was committed to LSU as a big piece early on to this 2020 class, and got a chance to kind of watch it come together and be a big recruiter and cheerleader for the 2020 class, as well as the older guys that you were watching on Saturdays. Now that you're actually all ready to roll and hopefully sooner than later able to get this freshman year rolling if everything goes according to what we're hoping for this summer. What's that like that it's now here?
It's an amazing feeling. Like you said, I was one of the first commit in the 2020 class. So just being able to sit back and help recruit and watch it all come together is an amazing sight to see. Our class is going to be very special. We're heavy on the defensive side of the ball. We have the best defensive backs in the nation, and Elias Ricks and Dwight McGlothern and stuff, Jordan Tolles and players of that caliber. On offensive side of the ball, we have weapons all over the place, Corey Moore, stuff like that. But the best feeling for me is graduating early, being able to learn from Joe, being able to take some stuff from Myles as they was preparing for Oklahoma and Clemson, just seeing where they were mentally before the game and their work ethic and things that they did to become, who they were and the team that they were. Just to be around that team, I took a lot from that team to try to transfer to when it's my turn and my turn to lead the team.
Well, we just saw this past fall with Joe and that whole group that obviously ends up going on to etch its names in the history books of not just the college football season and everything that they were able to accomplish, but also the NFL draft and guys moving on to the next level. We're talking about it as arguably the greatest college football season ever. And so we certainly don't expect every year to look quite the same moving forward, just because that's not how the superlatives are saying this is the best work. But from as close as you were with that season and those guys, and as much as you learned from Joe and saw of that offense, how do you see kind of yourself as well as some of these other quarterbacks, because you're really familiar with Myles and Peter and, have some familiarity with Max Johnson and so on. How do you kind of see your skill set in particular, but also some of these other guys fitting in and how this kind of continues to transition and evolve with Joe Brady gone now, Joe Burrow gone, and now you guys kind of taking the reins and making it more your own?
I think Joe left a great legacy with us. I feel like we're the best quarterback group to follow Joe Burrow. If anybody's going to be the next quarterback, it'll be us, one of us three. So I think Joe did a good job of showing us, the way to go and showing us how it's done during the season. And the 3 to 4 weeks that I was with him, the main thing I picked up was communication. The communication he had with the offensive guys, the old line, everybody was in one sync. They knew, where everybody was going to be. Receivers were just, switching positions during, in the middle of a game, but Joe knew, if we call this play, he's going to be here, they're going to be there. stuff like that. So I think Joe did a good job of showing us how it was done and teaching us, how to do what he did do what he did in another year, like back-to-back years or years coming down the road and stuff like that. So I think Joe did a good job of teaching us before he left.
You and Max come in this year, and certainly there's a lot of excitement to add you guys to that room. With Myles, he's been around so long and is the returning backup kind of, and so there's a lot of spotlight on him and questions of if he's ready to take over and make it his own, and people are kind of all over the map with a lot of high praise but a lot of uncertainty because people haven't seen it yet in a full capacity on Saturdays. You being there and seeing him, what's kind of your takeaways as a guy who's pretty good at breaking down the game and stuff, as you look at Myles as a quarterback on that roster? What do you take away from his skill set, his potential, and all of those aspects?
Myles is a great player. Myles has a lot of potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, if not the best quarterback in the nation this upcoming year. Like Coach Ensmith said, I think people should just hop on the bandwagon and just trust him. Myles is a gunslinger. Myles has one of the best arms that I've ever seen, in this country. A lot of people, like you said, they haven't seen it yet, but I've been practicing with him and I see, how he works with the receivers. And like I said, he took a lot from Joe. Them 2 years he sat with Joe was a good year. It was good years for him to, really understand and learn from him and stuff like that. But Myles is going to be, good when the season starts.
You had mentioned Coy Moore as one of the big weapons in this 2020 class. Talk a little bit more about some of those guys that are coming in with you on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't know if everyone realizes kind of the dynamic you and Coy had for a while there throughout the kind of camp process, but there were days that we were out there watching y'all kind of try to maneuver yourselves in the lines to where when you each came up, you were going to have a rep as you were trying to make sure that he ended up staying in state and just kind of show some of the things y'all could do.
Absolutely. Like you said, me and Coy had a special connection during those camp days. I remember we went to the opening together in Laplace, and we literally went like 8 for 8 in our reps, just lighting everybody up. But Keyshawn Butte, I haven't had a chance to throw to him, but I was watching, all that he was doing in the Under Armour All-American game, and he looked pretty good. I saw the touchdowns that he scored and stuff like that. He looked pretty good, so I can't wait to, have a chance to throw to him and other guys. Marcus Dumerville, me and him are like this. We text 24/7. Everybody else just, we just can't wait to see each other and really get to know each other. We have a group chat, but ever since this Corona stuff, we haven't really, kicked it off or nothing. But, we're just waiting for the right time and right moment to all come together and really become brothers,
And I'm sure you haven't necessarily been as involved with some of the specifics of this 2021 group, but I'm also sure you've probably seen some of those pieces fall into place a little bit here and there. How much have you seen kind of the continued recruiting success for O and company, just the way that they're keeping the ball rolling and had the national championship, bring you guys in, and seem like they're continuing to set up for a lot of long-term sustained future success? And what's kind of that reaction like as now a member of the current team, seeing the fact that, some of those next classes are still being brought in behind y'all to keep it rolling?
I respect it a lot. That national championship helped with recruiting in a big way. A lot of guys want to come play for Coach O and come play in this offense, come play in the defensive scheme that we now have. Just knowing that a lot of great players want to come play here. I'm just doing my job and helping recruit offensive guys. And when I see they're really interested, then I'll, put my 2 cents in and why they should come here and stuff like that. But Coach O has and our offensive and defensive staff has done an amazing job with recruiting. Like you said, the 2021 class is going to be amazing. The 2022 class, I can already see, is going to be pretty good. We have a lot of young weapons that want to come play. And, seeing their talents now, they're going to play early. So, you know, the national championship helped us a lot in recruiting.
Looking at those future classes, 2021, 2022, and so on, from the perspective of the guys that you leave behind at Ponchatoula now to kind of pass the wave reins onto, what's kind of your message to those guys? I was just talking to Donovan Campbell yesterday, and we were trying to set up a chance to chat and looking to catch up a little bit today. And I was like, well, the only thing I've got on the schedule locked in so far is T.J., so I didn't realize it was becoming Ponchatoula Tuesday. And then later that night, Jaheim Griffin was tagging me in workout videos and stuff. So guys like him and your little brother Kody and on down that roster that you're leaving behind at Ponchatoula, what's kind of your message to them as they take over and the outlook for them as they take on some bigger roles in their high school careers?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, they have a lot of talent on that team. And I have no doubt in my mind that they should win state one of the next 2 years because they're so talented on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I think the next 2 years will be one of the, if not both, at least one of the best years Ponchatoula has ever had because, you know, they have amazing receivers in Kody and Amarion Walker. Demontre Osby, we call him Scrappy, but Jacoby at quarterback, he'll be playing both sides of the ball. But one thing I try to teach them is never to focus on yourself. You're not bigger than the team ever. You know, I had me and Christian Campbell, Donovan's big brother, we were talking the other day, and, you know, we was just basically talking about our similarities in high school, how we both had one of the most historic years. And when he was playing, he led the state in rushing yards as a quarterback. And, you know, while I was playing, I led the state in passing yards. So we were just talking about lessons that we learned, you know, that it was never about ourselves. It was always about team success and not personal success. So that's what I try to teach them young guys. And I think they're going to get it eventually. And once they get it, then they'll be a dangerous team to play.
At his age, how ridiculous is Jacoby Matthews already?
Very ridiculous. He's a freakish athlete, and he should be playing somewhere on Saturday nights.
And, you know, I always love to, anytime we chat, since Cody's got to high school, I like to give you a chance to kind of talk him up. We've seen some big strides from him early and kind of starting to make a little bit of a name for himself. For folks that haven't had a chance to see Cody Finley live or on highlights and stuff like that, what's coming next up from y'all's family? Because there's some more talent still coming through Ponchatoula.
Absolutely. Cody is he's different. He's a 6'4", 6'5" receiver, and I know all colleges want tall receivers. He hasn't ran his 40 yet, but me seeing him run, he's gotten faster, he's gotten quicker. I see maybe a 4.7, low 4.8 right now. He's just breaking into his body, and every time we go throw, you know, I love throwing to Cody because I can throw it in different spots, and his arm length and his reach is just so. He has such a wide radius that he can catch any ball. And, you know, that's what I love about Cody. He has strong hands. He doesn't drop any of my passes. You know, he used to complain back in elementary school that I threw too hard, but he's gotten used to them now, and he doesn't drop a single pass. We went and ran one-on-ones yesterday with a DB that's committed to Tulane and Cornelius Dyson. And me and Cody were just, you know, it was good coverage, but, you know, Cody was his body control, like I said, his radius. I was able to put the ball high sometimes, and he just go get it. So, like I said, he's just different. And I think a lot of people will see that more in the camp series than they will in season, in football season, because, you know, now that Jacoby's at quarterback, I don't think he'll be able to showcase them skills. Because I don't think they'll be throwing the ball as much, you know, especially with the running threat that they have in Jacoby and Braden Johnson, you know, the running back that I had last year. But you know, once camp season hit again, I think everybody will be able to see how different of a receiver he is than the previous years that he's been playing.
There you go. I mean, you hear it from T.J. Finley himself. Folks in Baton Rouge and around the state, cupboard is certainly not bare with all those guys leaving for the NFL draft. Still some big things ahead, and the same in Ponchatoula where Jacoby, Cody, and Osbury and Heim and all those guys kind of take the reins. So, T.J., always a pleasure, man. Keep staying safe and getting ready for 2020 season.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Again, he's T.J. Finley, Jarrett Roser. Thanks.